Do you know what? I think it's finally time we dealt with the elephant in the room. Are jades really bonsai? Honestly, when you look at some of the comments I've seen, I'm convinced they're not. Or are they? Yep, this is going to be a topical chat from Xavier in his bonsai retreat, and hopefully you'll stick with this because even for the people I'm going to irritate, I think this will be a bit of fun. I think actually the biggest question, is it jade or is it Portulaclarus africanus or dwarf jade? That's my biggest problem.
Listen, that's not a problem. That is not a problem.
But no, let's deal with this, let's get straight to it. What on earth is bonsai anyway? Now, seriously, when I thought about this question, I was racking my brains, you know. I can go through some definitions and we'll do that in a minute, but I thought, who is the person who's most knowledgeable about bonsai techniques generally across the world and certainly across Facebook? So of course, who else do I call? I spoke to Jason on the phone and said, could he get in touch with Bonsai Bob? So over to him. Well, thanks for that, Bob, and Jason, thank you also. But again, what's caused me to look into this subject? And yes, I think many of us on YouTube have had those comments where someone, in their opinion, says that's not a bonsai, or I've even heard ficus, not a bonsai. And you know, I thought to myself, let's really look deeply into this and find out why it's not a bonsai, or are they perhaps wrong? Because you know what? In bonsai, I love this hobby because we can do really what we want. You know, we go back thousands of years, hundreds of years, whatever, and there were more traditional forms, and you can look through life and pretty well that applies to everything. There's a lot of changes, and change is good.
I don't have any change.
Most of the time. But I get tired of being told that something's not a bonsai when I feel it is. So let's do a little bit of digging around and just see where this has all come from. And don't even get me started on the difference between pre-bonsai and bonsai, because it just goes down a big rabbit hole then. So as I said, it probably helps if we do just a teeny bit of history. Now again, I asked Bonsai Bob if he wanted to do history, but apparently Bonsai Bob has all the knowledge up here, but actually doesn't look or get any technical backup or verification anywhere else. Gosh, I sound terrible for Bonsai Bob, don't I? I do hope I don't meet him. So the earliest I could find is referenced back in 700 AD in China. They were practicing this art, the elites of the Chinese society in that time. I do believe they called it Bonsai or Pensai. Very quickly it was shown to be Penjing, and I think Penjik is pen is container, I believe, and then Jing is scenery or landscape. To be honest, in its broadest form or definition, that would count as a Penjing. I've got plastic elephants, some rocks, and I've put these out in what I believe to be a realistic representation of an outdoor scene. Not sure how realistic, but yeah, so that would fit the criteria back in the 700 ADs in China, although maybe they wouldn't consider it that elite. Now, I also looked to see if I could find the term pre-bonsai or bonsai under training back in 700 AD, and the term didn't come up, funny enough. Mind you, thinking about it, is someone who just scribbles a drawing, is it a pre-drawing, or if it's completed, does it become a drawing then?
Wow, that's deep. Really deep.
So when do we think it became bonsai or bonsai? I think somewhere around the 1180s, I think the Kakamura period. It came across Japan, and at that point the Japanese term, I think, took on very quickly, became known as bonsai. The bon or bone is a pot or container, and sai is the noise you make when you realise this video is going to go on forever and ever and ever. Seriously, sai, planting, going on that. So long we've got a a container and some form of planting, then surely that's bonsai. Well, there's probably more to it than that, and I'm being very, very simplistic. But going back to the original question, is jade potentially bonsai? Well, let's have a look. And certainly if you just put bonsai as the search term in Google, the first thing that comes up is, I think it's the art of growing artificially dwarfed trees or shrubs in a pot, of course, which is very, very broad definition. So then we go back to my original question, which we all want to know the answer to: is jade bonsai? You know, can we call this bonsai? Can we call this bonsai? Well, I think this one's easy. This is a cutting. It's not bonsai yet. So to fit all the criteria of the definitions, it needs to be in a container or a pot. It needs to be kept small or dwarfed or brutalized in some way, and it needs to fit the classification of a tree or a shrub. So basically anything that's green. Well, actually that's not the definition of a shrub, is it? Going by those, how can anyone say jade can't be bonsai or ficus? But I thought, you know what, I'm sure the answer's even out there if I look it up properly. So let's do that, shall we? So I type in there, is jade a bonsai? You know, let's leave my opinion out of it. Straight away I think Bonsai Empire is the first one that comes up. And Bonsai Empire, I'd like to think, is a credible resource. Clearly they give a whole load of guides about how to bonsai jade or PAs, Portula claris. I'll leave it at that because my pronunciation is atrocious. But you know what? Let's not stop at Bonsai Empire, because maybe there's a greater source of information and knowledge. So then we go further down. Look, we've got Bonsai Mary, and even she is talking about the fact that jade is a bonsai. They must be. And if you go online to stores, you see them readily being sold. Now, I have no doubt that there are very knowledgeable people out there who are saying, right now I'm being too simplistic and I'm missing stuff. But you know what? We are a big bonsai community. We're hobbyists. 99% of us have not done formal training, have not learnt the yeses and the nos and the whys and the wherefores, and we're just enjoying this as a hobby. So if I want to make this in a container, I want to dwarf my tree, and I want to have a tree, then that's bonsai. But looking back, I said the word pre-bonsai and sort of joked that I couldn't find it in the earlier definitions. And I think sometimes this is when the realism comes in, because a bit like the illustration of a budding artist who draws a load of wiggly lines. In fact, that's me. In fact, if you've seen some of my diagrams, in fact, there's something where I did actually do just that. And they're rubbish. I'm still learning. Is it pre-drawing? No, of course it's not. It's still a drawing. It's just not a very good one.
Get to the point.
Is this bonsai? By the definition, yes. Is it a good one? No. Would I be showing it at the Kokofu show? No. Would I be laughed at if I showed it in any show? Probably. But I know that, but it's on the way. So it's a developing bonsai, but technically it's still bonsai. So my suggestion might be, rather than getting caught up in whether it's pre-bonsai, bonsai, just enjoy the art. So what was the reason for this? Well, truthfully, I've got an absolute shed load of these from cuttings, and I'll be honest with you, quietly, they're not my favourite. So who thought we weren't going to do any bonsai? Probably many of you hoped we weren't, but actually I've got to try and take a load of these, and I am going to create yet another Jade Penjing. I've got myself this great big pot here. I've got some interesting rocks and things, and you know I like rocks, and this has come from Stronsay. So again, I'm just going to take some of these out, prune them up, and see what I can create. Now, I certainly won't be using all of these. I'll probably try and get as many in as I can. The key thing you need to do though before you start repotting your jades or your PAs is make sure you haven't watered them for a while. And these haven't been watered for a week. What I'll do is I'll pull a whole load of these out, and then we'll see what we can organise. When this is not pre-bonsai, this is just cuttings growing. And really, the best place for cuttings is just in a good old-fashioned plant pot. I'm going to get these all out. I might use that actually for a decent tree. Oh, we'll just sort that. We've got loads of roots and stuff like that, so I'm going to need to clip those roots down, but let's just separate them first. It's quite a good spread. And the good thing about with them being nice and dry, they're easy to work with, which is why we don't want to water them, otherwise they'll be all soggy. That's okay. But that's nice, look at that. And that could end up being Could do a little twin trunk on that. That's quite a nice one actually. That could be put in a pot. And you know, this is when I say it again, you look at that and you think, why can't that make a decent bonsai and look really, really credible? Now these have been in pots for a couple of years. Yeah, we're going to go Nigel Saunders on the roots. Okay. And because I want this to be credible, I am going to try and pick some stuff that's decent, he says. Because all my trees are decent. I've got a whole pile to go through. You don't need to see that. Why don't you come back when I've got them all sorted into the trees I want. Okay, so we've got five reasonable sized ones there. And what is so great about this is they are all cuttings from one plant. Over here I've got some smaller stuff, so I can definitely get some different trunk variations. But I think we've got some interesting starter, certainly 5 main trees. Now there's still loads more that I haven't pulled out. They're still very much cutting stages. The ones we're seeing here I've had now for certainly at least 4 years, and every year I basically clip and grow them back and then just see what develops, and you do get some interesting stuff. Others just don't seem to do anything at all. It's just like a telegraph pole, and I have a good feeling what I'll do with that.
What?
You know, others you get some branching higher up, but if you imagine putting them together in a forest, you need stuff like that as well to sort of make it look natural, if I can say that in an unnatural way. Thinking about that, I put some in some of these cuttings in last year when I did the last of my jade, probably in early December. And I thought, you know what, I don't want to keep the cuttings, but let's have a look and see how far they've developed. So these were cuttings. I mean, to be fair, these are just branch cuttings and straightforward soil. And I think you can see clearly enough there that we get a nice set of roots developing there. But that's still going to need another 2 or 3 years. And what I should do is separate and just put that into one pot and then let that grow basically unfettered for another year at least. Keep it fertilised, let it enjoy the sun. That one, I look at it, it's got 1 root on it. Am I going to waste my time? Truthfully, no. So this is going in the discard pile because I've got too many. Now I think if you watch a video Yella did at some point, and he talked about probably one of the worst trees or bushes for your bonsai clippers is jade. So definitely after working with jade, you want to clean these down. I now need to have a look at these roots. I'm going to get rid of crossing roots, all the usual stuff. I'm just going to clip these right back. Anything that's going up, get rid of. Crossing, anything like that, and these should be fine. So let me work my way around all the roots on these, clipping them right back. That's going underneath. We don't want that. That's going all wiggly. We don't really want wiggly from the base. What we want to try and do is get a good spread outwards, and that's interesting. Before I plant them, I'll also cut the tops, and because this is going to be a new planting, I'm going to get rid of a lot of the upper weight that I don't need. And this is why they're so much fun, and why they're so much fun to learn on, is they bud so readily from where you've cut. It's a beautiful shrub to work with, or tree. You know, you don't need to leave any leaves on. You could literally cut it right back like that, and chances are it'd be fine. No, actually, I'm normally quite conservative about how much I cut back, but that's probably enough for that one. And I'm just going to go around now, do the same to all these. And then we'll come back and have a go at putting them together in the forest. Okay, well, it's half an hour further on and my back's aching and my stomach's grumbling, but unfortunately we're in the 2nd day of Lent, so I've still got another 6 or 7 weeks of fasting and all sorts of stuff like that. But hey, that's my choice. So the pot I've picked is this classic budget china pot. It's big, but the best thing about it, it's got a tray, which means when it gets colder, I can bring it indoors and look after it that way. So I've just got some soil in there. It's pretty well grit, pumice, zeolite, mixture of that, sort of 50-50, and then I've also got probably, well, it won't be 50-50 because I've got about 20% of vermiculite. So it's a sort of combination of that. Vermiculite I use because I want it's something to retain some moisture. As you can see, these have all been cut down, hardly any roots on them at all. And the aim is I really do want literally just the core trunks to set the line that I want. So I'm going to start sorting that out. Okay, so I've got a nice rock there. Probably okay, so held down by the rock because that's always useful. I'll keep going like this and come back to you when I've got a few more in. It's coming on, and I know, you know, for the size of the pot you're expecting something to be taller and higher, but again, I'm just building the framework, the structure. So, you know, is this a completed bonsai? Of course not. Is it completed penjing? No. What I'm building is the ribs, which if you were building a wooden boat, then you'd want to make sure you got the ribs right so you could then support the secondary structure what's needed.
I never thought of it that way.
So, just trying to get set. Well, we've got 3 over here, 2, 3, 5. Got to put something here. Not sure, but it's very, very hard to see. But there you go, that's where I'm going so far. Some little interesting ones which I can sort of place in different places. This straight one though, I just don't think it works. There's nowhere I can put it, it just looks odd. So that's going to go elsewhere, probably in a pot somewhere, and just see what happens. Ultimately, again, this one, very, very straight, so I may actually just do some cut-offs on those, so that's not very good. And to be fair, it's the same with this. You've got to try and, I suppose when I look at these creations, I try to have that all of the trees have got quite a bit of movement in them, so I want to keep that in form right here. I find it really weird to have a straight one in the middle of it for no apparent reason. Although this hasn't got a lot of growth, it's got some movement, so we'll find somewhere to put that. Probably at the back actually. Probably want the smaller ones at the front here. It's always difficult when you've got these rectangular pots to try and get the foreground right, because I mean I've got to have my herd of elephants in there, but I still want to fill it up a bit. Okay, well, it's done for now. For those of you who wanted to see me create it, it was just shoving and poking and moving stuff about. And if you want to see that in more detail, I've actually done a video last year where I created that earlier jade forest you saw, that little penjing. So links up there or in the description if you want to see more. There it is with our little giraffes in there. I mean, it doesn't look like much right now, but one, it gets all those jade cuttings into some sort of order, and at least it's a new project, and it'll be very, very interesting to see how this develops over the years. I've got a long way to get before I get up to something from the bonsai zone, but hey, it's a start. One thing I do want to say is jade is an absolutely brilliant indoor plant or shrub for the beginner, because you can do so much with it. They root from just the limbs. They're just wonderful for that. So I don't think that's half bad. In fact, you tell me in the comments what you reckon about it. So, from that great chaotic mess, we've now got 2 or 3 that I've put into pots here. Got a little tray there of the best of what had been growing. Certainly reduced the volume of stuff that I've got on the windowsills, and that's always a good thing. Got this brand new, I think it's 13 jade or PAs. They're a mixture. They all look the same to me, they really do. And to be fair, you treat them the same way, so that's all that matters. Hopefully the giraffes will like them. If you've liked this content, then you know, big thumbs up. If you think someone else will benefit from it, then please share it via social media or any other sites. And if you haven't subscribed, then please, I ask you humbly, could you subscribe? That's what helps YouTube decide that more people need to see this. So I need your help for that. And apart from that, I think we're done with jade for now. So a big thank you to Jason Hanrahan of the Bonsai Garden, who very, very short notice, produced that little skit. I have a feeling that Bonsai Bob is going to become a bit more of a regular. Hopefully I'll get to use him a few times. Anyway, as we head towards the weekend and Arctic conditions, which never ever seem to arise here, I'll say thanks very much for watching. All the best. Happy bonsai and God bless. Cheers.